So that really wraps up my section on the standards. And I just hope that from that, again, you get an idea of these standards that are out there, that exist, and that really will reinforce or kind of just show through a different lens a lot of the math skills that our students are developing through K through 5. And then for the next chunk, we are going to talk about resources, specifically resources and lessons. So again, I recognize I am doing a lot of talking here. I am sharing a lot of resources with you guys. I just, again, want to reassure you that you're getting this PDF resource packet, and then also getting this linked slideshow is going to be emailed to you. So what I like to say is I invite you to just let this wave of knowledge crash over you. Don't worry about trying to grab individual things, because they'll all be there for you when you're ready in your own time. So I'm going to talk about 3 kind of economic concepts that I think really relate to math practices, and give you some lessons that integrate personal finance and mathematics. Before I dig into this, I want to talk a little bit about my sources. Primarily, lessons here are coming from the Minnesota Council on Economic Education, which is run through the University of Minnesota. They have a curriculum that is called Economics and Mathematics, and it's K through 5. Again, you'll find links in here in the resource package. But each grade comes with 3 units, and it is personal finance, decision making, and then business or production. And within them, there are lessons. What I like about this, obviously, because it does come with a math kind of viewpoint, you're going to get your Common Core standards are listed in there in each lesson. I know that that's not exactly Washington State, but they align. And they're also in Google Docs. You just make a copy, which I love, because then you can adapt it and change it to your students' needs, right? It's great for differentiation, whole numbers for one group, decimals for another group. If you're working on tenths or quarters or something very specific, it's easy to change some of these lessons to reflect those. So the first concept, and then the second source you're going to see here is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They have a bunch of great K through 12 financial literacy lessons and activities. I find them really great for supplementing and kind of standalone lessons. I wouldn't call it like a unit or a curriculum, but they're really well thought out. They are clean when printable, easy activities that I think really reinforce some fantastic concepts. So these are the primary sources you're going to be seeing from here. So first concept I want to talk about is scarcity and allocation, right? So the idea that our resources, natural, human, and capital, that should say capital, not human made, our resources are limited, meaning we cannot have everything we want. And so that economic concept of, our resources are limited, they're finite, is scarcity. And then there are a bunch of different strategies for allocating resources. And we see those different strategies in different areas of our life, right? In a classroom, a lot of the time, we're going to see like leader chooses or majority rules. And different strategies, of course, will work for different contexts, different communities, different subjects. But the math connections to this, I think, are awesome. Like, numbers are finite, just like our resources. You cannot just create more out of nothing. You have to borrow or regroup in order to do that. Allocation is dividing up resources. It's dividing up a whole into different parts in different ways. It's a conceptual understanding of division and fractions, which I think is very cool. Lessons that we have here, the first one, all of these ones from Minnesota Council are really labeled with a grade, but I find them so adaptable. I love this lesson, who should get what. That's the main allocation, where they go through all the different allocation strategies. I believe there are 7, and they evaluate whether they are fair, easy, and safe. Again, we're really developing in students' evaluation skills, right? And just recognizing that we can't have everything we want. In the next lesson, we're looking at pros and cons specifically. And that one ties in with a book called Tia Isa Wants a Car, looking at pros and cons, looking at choices and alternatives. We're going to actually talk about this book a little bit later as well. But I love the idea of using these decision-making graphics. We're developing the social emotional skill in students, and we're teaching them how to read tables and interpret information. And I just love reinforcing that skill. I don't think it gets explicitly taught enough. So that's great. Using a budget to shop for a party is aimed a little bit more towards older students. You can see a little graphic of it there. But this is a really popular open-ended kind of question. We're having a party. We have a list of foods for this imaginary party, and all of the foods have a price. This is your budget. Or, you can start by just saying, what do you want to have for the party? And then give them the budget and have them make the adjustments. It's great for group work and just recognizing that it's different to work within a budget. And again, that these resources are scarce. How big is the schoolyard? I believe that's labeled a third grade. That's, boy, this slide. This is a fourth grade lesson on scaling, which I don't know about you, but scaling gave me headaches when I was teaching math. So we're multiplying by powers of 10 at this point to find the area of our schoolyard. We're looking at, hey, we have some chance to change our schoolyard. We can make courts, we can make fields, like what should we do? So scaling those different areas and then applying the scarcity of that space to an in-class activity. And then moving on to the next economic kind of concept we're going to talk about is choices and opportunity cost. So we always have choices. The option not taken, or the thing we give up in exchange for our choice, is our opportunity cost. As resources are scarce, like we just established, decision-making strategies are what can really help us consider opportunity costs and make the best decision for us, for ourselves. Of course, whenever we're talking about developing math skills, kids are going to have choices because we have this ultimate summative experience of testing. So students are not only developing math skills, but developing evaluative testing skills and strategies, hopefully. And I think looking at this, this mindset is great for that. How can I evaluate what works best for me? When we're teaching different skills too, I don't know about you, but I have like 3 different ways we introduce multiplication with, right? Because we want to find a way that matches with our students, whatever works best for their brain is what I would say. So with that, this is another way that they can look at these choices and make evaluations to decide what is working best for me, what way is actually easiest for me. And again, we're explicitly teaching some of these skills that's going to help them develop better academic habits. So we have 5 lessons on this one. And again, there's some overlap here. Totally recognize that. But spending money on a trip, didn't make choices about they would spend money on a park. I love this. It's very universally accessible. Most kids can relate to going on a trip to the park. And then we have another one called choices, choices, choices. We're developing a bar graph in this one. We're talking about graphs feature really heavily within this chunk, which again, I love reading tables, talking about trade-offs in that choices, choices, choices. And then within the 2nd grade, again, we have another welcome party. This one is a very specific type of party. It is a welcome party. And again, we're looking at deciding on different parts of the party, great for small groups, making choices, recognizing opportunity costs, and then using numbers in the same way. Danny chooses a pet I love. There's a whole backstory for Danny and his birthday, and he lives with his mom and his grandma, and he's always wanted a pet. And now not only does he get one, but he gets the opportunity to choose what pet he's going to have. So he's going through a decision-making grid. He's using the PACE decision-making grid, which you're probably familiar with: problem, alternatives, criteria, evaluate, and then decision. And then he's using addition and subtraction. He's looking at the cost of what different pets would the cumulative cost of those pets as well. And then the last one is called how much time. Talking about the scarcity of time and elapsed time, which is just amazing because, again, we live in a digital world, and I don't know about you, but 75% of my kids could not read a regular clock. it's just one of those skills that I was just determined they were going to learn, and they just fought me on it. But I want to actually show you a little bit of what some of these lessons look like with is how much time went. So on the left, you'll see sort of what the lesson plan kind of breaks down to, or the design of it. I find it, clean and easy to read. And what I like is they link all of their materials on that first page. So you're not hunting and clicking. I'm very cognizant of how annoying it is to hunt for information when you have a lot of things to do. There's an example of the worksheet there. Which one would you choose? Naming, numbering activities, valuing them from greatest to smallest. Then they have looking at elapsed time and figuring out which one is 45 minutes, and then choosing elapsed time, or calculating elapsed time in a table there on the bottom. The summative activity for this lesson is looking at a class schedule. I believe we have a 7-hour day. I want to say 7-hour school day. Yeah, divided up into sections for Mr. Sanchez's class. We're looking at the minutes. We're dividing up the total day into this little pie chart with different coloring. So a lot of different skills covered here. Again, it's a grade 3. If you have achievement gaps in your students, I think, again, this is very adaptable lessons.